Snowpacalypse, day 1, 2019. So in our last video, we told you that we were gonna tell you guys how we got started and what really got us into the whole sustainable farming thing and how we've gotten to where we are today. We are in the midst of Western Washington's 2019 Snowpacalypse, so we figured what better place to do it than enjoying a cup of coffee on the porch in the snow.
I had to get it out somehow.
We started about 8 years ago because when we met, Chris was a vegetarian, and shortly after we started dating, he got some questionable test results back from the doctor saying that he had abnormal liver function. That really made us start looking into our health, what we were eating and drinking, maybe a little too much of sometimes for both of us. It all kind of started from there.
And that led into us questioning where our food came from and how it was sourced and whatnot. And I was a vegetarian not because I didn't agree with eating meat or anything, but because I didn't agree with the way commercial farming was handled. That's kind of what started my mentality on the whole animal welfare. And
I started looking into ingredients in a lot of foods. My concern, especially once we found out that we had a kid on the way, I definitely started being more concerned with food ingredients, processed foods, and kind of figuring out where all of that was coming from and how it's affecting my body, well, anybody else's body for that matter. Yeah, that kind of started our process with
a whole raw food type diet. If you buy ingredients, you're kind of forced to cook food instead of just buying something in a box and throwing it in the oven and calling it good. It's nice when you buy ingredients, you actually know a little bit more about your food.
And once we got on the whole ingredients train, once we had transitioned over to a whole foods diet for the most part, don't get me wrong, we still have our moments. We have some weaknesses, Cheez-Its, but we know now that when we eat those kind of things, we know exactly what we're getting ourselves into. We know exactly what we're putting into our bodies. It makes us feel a little better about it. That led to further questions about what we were eating and how that would affect our health and wellness. And we started, Chris already had his interests and downfalls of commercial farming, so to speak. We're talking massive commercial farms, there are many commercial small farms that are wonderful and have great animal welfare.
Yeah, most chicken in America that's mass produced on a large commercial scale is farmed to McDonald's standards. So you can go to the grocery store and buy, Tyson or Foster Farms chicken, but that's McDonald's standard chicken. 30% saline. It's just unhealthy. And your food is what it eats, and you are what you eat. So in essence, we are what our food eats.
It's freezing out here. Chickens and cows and pigs are pretty much all fed the same thing, and it's mostly corn. Corn, soy, wheat, various mixtures of that stuff. That means essentially you're getting the same nutrients out of every piece of meat, and they're not very good. They're not as nutrient dense as they could be. We're not getting everything out of them that we should be getting out of them, especially taking into consideration that it was a living animal. So we started wanting to farm, I guess. We started with a tiny little patio tower garden thing on our back patio in our apartment. We grew jalapenos one year and had a million jalapenos. It was crazy. We didn't even know what to do with all of them in our tiny little apartment kitchen. From there, we started looking for a house.
We made sure we bought a house with enough property to sustain the amount of food we wanted to grow.
Yes.
So we had that
We
in
tried,
mind.
at
Yep.
least.
So we got a couple acres out in the middle of nowhere where no one around us really does any kind of spraying. 2 miles up a private road, so there's no county spraying anywhere. So there's no city water coming through with any chemicals in it or anything like that, no additives.
We got chickens as soon as I possibly could. Let's be fair. I brought home, I think, 10 chicks one day. Totally unprepared. I don't think we had anything to put them in. I did buy a little chick starter set that they were selling at the local feed store that came with a heat lamp and a little chick feeder, a waterer, a tiny, tiny bag of chick food.
And then we bought
And
a
that was it.
stock bin and
Yeah.
just kind of played it. I wouldn't even say we played it by ear. We were trying to catch our own asses. On trying to figure it out. They grew a lot quicker than we thought. I was out there trying to build a chicken coop.
We had no actual power tools. We did hammer and nail, scrap wood from anybody. We looked in those new housing developments to get little bits and pieces of plywood that they were throwing away. We went to Habitat for Humanity and got whatever 2x4s we could find, or 2x6s or 2x10s. Literally just the jankiest.
It was a Frankenstein
It
chicken
was
coop.
so awful.
It weighed like 500 pounds. It was right next to the house, so I had to put it on my back like a turtle and crawl it halfway across our property so it'd be in an actual suitable area. And it was horrible. The chickens were unhappy. We free ranged them most of the time, but the coop was just substandard. So
Yeah, it was not our best moment for sure, but we all start somewhere. Most of us, I would say, get a little excited and start by diving in head first. We had our 10 chickens, and within the first 6 months that they were outside, after they had been fully feathered and everything like that, we lost all of them to predators. Every single one.
we have coyotes, chicken hawks, I mean, you name it, crows,
Owls,
yeah.
eagles.
Anything. We've seen, I mean, we had a coyote in the broad daylight just walk through our yard, pick up a chicken and walk off.
Yep.
Right in front of us.
We learned our lesson though, so we got our fences built, started doing a hell of a lot more research, and from then on we kind of knew we can't do things like this anymore. So for the most part, we didn't go in unprepared anymore. At least we were as prepared as we could be. And now, 4 years later, we have 12 chickens. We have 3 turkeys. We have 4 goats. And we have 3 pigs. And I gotta say, it's a really good life when we have a giant garden.
Yeah.
Not that you could see it right now because it's under a foot of snow, but you know.
I mean, it's enough food. I think last year, how many tomato species did we have? How many different types?
12.
12 different types, but she loves tomatoes, so of course we had like 750,000 tomato plants for each of those types.
Yes,
So
he does not like tomatoes, so
I
I grew a lot of other stuff. Let's be fair, I didn't just grow, you make it sound like I only grew tomatoes.
It seems like you only grew tomatoes. Because you grew a lot of tomatoes.
I did grow a lot of tomatoes.
Yes. Now we're going to try and redesign our garden spaces and do it a little bit more efficiently, maybe do some permaculture this year. So we won't have to do just the raised garden beds, which dry out a lot easier than the regular soil because they're obviously elevated. Remove a tree that keeps blocking all the sun from all of our gardens.
It's pretty exciting stuff. Constantly projects.
Yep.
All the time, forever, never ends, ever.
It's not an easy life, but it's a good one.
Yes. Hard work, satisfying life. We dig it.